That clap and cheer is for my guest tonight, Mrs. Nancy Leport, who will be joining me, Mike Hayes, on the Big H podcast. We like to feature local guests from the village of Hilton and town of Parma, and my guest today is no stranger to that. She's had a lifelong experience of different activities, different leadership positions in the village and the town. And Nancy, it is a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. Hilton is very near and dear to my heart. I was born in Brockport, but basically I was born and bred here in Hilton. One of the first stories my parents tell me is they brought me home from the hospital, and my first house or place to live was in their apartment above the Heart Store, which was on the corner of Main Street and South Avenue. It's where the nail salon and dog grooming is located now. And from there, I lived in a variety of houses in Hilton. And by the way, full disclosure, I was born in Brockport in January of 1952. So yeah, I've been around a while. I have good memories of Hilton growing up. I had lots of cousins around me and aunts. We were always, riding our bikes and at each other's houses. And it wasn't a matter of not knowing where we were because everybody in the community knew who we were. And if we did something wrong, our parents knew about it before we got home because someone had called them to tell them what was going on. It was a good feeling. It was like almost like this little cocoon I grew up in. Nothing like, so much of what the kids have to deal with today. My grandparents, their names were Hazel and Orb Kenyon. They ran the Heart Store, which was a little general store. It did have a butcher, but the rest of it was general food stuff. And it was very, the floor was wood. If you wanted cheese, my grandfather got his knife out and cut it off the block of cheese for you. You picked up your own bunch of grapes. It was quite the general store in many ways. I can still go through that store, the two big aisles, and I remember where things were. And the most exciting time for me at the store was around Christmas time because my grandfather would get these huge presents. They were all boxed up, and there was usually, a cowboy set or garage, gas station, dolls, and you would look at it and you'd decide which one you wanted so that you could tell Santa Claus. My mom worked at the store, so I was there quite often. And they had a very interesting checkout system in that there was one counter with the old-fashioned cash registers where you had to really push them down. And then the two carts would meet in the middle. The two clerks would take care of each order. And then sometimes the stock boys would take the famous Hart's wagon and pull the groceries to the person's house. So it was really full service back then. And most people didn't pay cash. I remember this would have been probably in the late 50s, you would just write down what they bought. And at the end of the month, my grandfather would send out bills and people would come in and pay them. I don't think that would go over too well today.
No.
But it was just a nice atmosphere. I always loved being in the store, being on Main Street. There was always something happening on Main Street. They had the pleasure shop, which was a candy store and comic books. And then, of course, we had the candy kitchen where the Panaritas made their own ice cream and their own chocolate. And it was incredible. Unfortunately, when the fire hit in 1965 that destroyed Main Street, even though my grandparents had already retired and sold the store, it just felt like a lot of memories burned up at the same time, so that it was no longer the gathering place. We always could find somebody we knew on Main Street. And that kind of has gone by the wayside, but I think that's probably happened everywhere as, time has marched on, because it's been a while since 1952.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you work at the store, or were you just too
No, I
young at that
wasn't
point?
old enough to work at the
Mm-hmm.
store. A couple of my male cousins, though, worked as stock boys, and they tell me that my grandfather was a very strict boss. He expected things done right.
Now, what about, you said that there was a butcher on site? How did
Yes.
that work? Like, did they get local beef and meat?
I don't know where the meat actually came from. I remember his name was Bob, and it was a long counter, refrigerated counter, and the meat was in there. And I'm calling him a butcher. I don't think he actually cut the meat up in the back room. Maybe he did, but I think he could, cut things up for people if they wanted something out of the case. It was a big deal. There was no packaged meat. You got it right out of that meat case.
Did you have a favorite food stuff that you personally took home at night?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I do know that one of the favorite treats was if my mother would bring home a can of potato sticks.
Mm-hmm.
That was a treat. You know, back in the day, boy, do I sound old.
It's all right.
I know I am.
Seasoned.
Yeah, seasoned is right. People weren't running to the malls or to big stores. We pretty much bought what we needed right in town. I mean, there was a shoe store, they had dry goods store. So yeah, the treats would have been, a little sweet or maybe some chips or something. Yeah.
Now, you talked about cousins. Did you have any siblings? I know you
Yes.
did, but I'm.
Yes. My maiden name is Wheelahan. And yes, Michael Wheelahan is my brother. And he has two boys, and they both still live here in the Hilton area. In fact, his son Kevin is a phys ed teacher at the school, and his other son Greg is a Monroe County sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
So they are very active still in the community. My daughters, I have two girls, they do not live in Hilton, but then again, they never did. And
Okay.
that's for a later part of the story.
Sure is. Now, when you were going through school, where was the grade school in Hilton?
Okay. The grade school was right where it is now. Hazel Jenkins and Jonathan Underwood. They weren't connected like they are now. But I did kindergarten through second grade in Hazel Jenkins. And then I did third and fourth in Jonathan Underwood. Fifth and sixth were in the Henry Street School, which is now the Village Community Center.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the first class into Merton Williams. In fact, we went into it in our seventh grade year, and it wasn't even completely done yet when we started there. And then high school was West Avenue.
Okay. And so the high school is 9 through 12. Is that?
It was 9 through 12. Yep. We graduated in 70, and I think 1973 was the first class in the East Avenue school.
Well, in doing my research for our podcast, I did go to the village office, and Dave Crum, the historian, gave me the 1970 yearbook, and I looked up, and some of the teachers there were quite young, like Steve Williams, Jim Buck, Harold Garno, many names that I had recognized. What was the school culture like when you were going through high school at that point?
Okay, so I am in high school from 66 to 70. It was a pretty tumultuous time in the country because of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw a lot of, kids that we looked up to as seniors, either being drafted. The draft, I don't think they hadn't started the lottery yet, but some of them were going off to Vietnam. The culture itself, we had a really tight class and enjoyed being together and doing things. we were also part of the generation where girls could not wear slacks to
Mm.
school. And if boys wore blue jeans, they couldn't have rivets on them. And I remember a big push by the student body to get the dress code changed. So at least the girls could wear slacks. And that finally, I think by my senior year, we were wearing slacks. Now, the other thing that the seniors today would probably raise their eyebrows at, we had a senior lounge
Hmm.
and we were allowed to smoke in the
Whoa.
senior lounge. Yep, 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 yep. We had a like a cooler, a vending machine. We had a little store in there. We had couches, and if you had a study hall and you got a pass, you could go to the senior lounge. We also were allowed to leave the building as seniors for lunch.
Hmm.
And I've had a lot of my classmates talk about going down to Ken's bar and having a hamburger for lunch.
Okay.
I don't remember leaving. But it was the time of Vietnam protests. The first Earth Day took place in 1970, and we were pretty active in terms of knowing what was going on and learning how to ask for what we need, negotiate with administrators, and all that sort of stuff. So I think the school itself, when I was there, I don't remember a big um, bullying didn't seem to be an issue, although I'm sure it was somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, we also were part of an exchange program because now we're in the 60s with the civil rights movement. I mean, we grew up in the middle of it all.
Hmm.
And we had an exchange day where I think it was Franklin came to Hilton, and then the next time a group of Hilton kids went to Franklin just to kind of get the dialogue going. And Hilton was looked at as the cow country.
Hmm.
We were farm, farm, farm country. Everybody, we were the Hicks of
Hmm.
Section 5.
Hmm.
I don't think that's the case anymore, but it
No,
was
I wouldn't
then.
say that either.
No, no.
Um,
Of course, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, what type of clubs did they have? I mean, I got the yearbook right here. I could
Well,
repeat them, but
we had the typical language clubs, French, German, Spanish, I believe. We had, um, it was called, it's a phys ed, like Girls Leadership Club or something, because this was before Title IX.
hmm.
So if girls were going to do sports, it was only intramural, or we would have this leadership corps where we were taking attendance in class and that sort of thing. Um, there was a coin club, there was junior Rotarians, there was a ski club that was very popular, and we also had a rifle club.
That's just wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, and the rifle range is in the basement of the Henry Street School. And I understand the range is still there. I don't know if it's used, but
Hmm.
I think it's still there. Yeah.
Now, I think you participated in Enzian Club. Was that true? And
Yes.
explain what that is, because I had never heard of it.
All right, so there's National Honor Society, and you had to have an 85 average to be selected for National Honor Society, among some other stuff. The Enzians were the next level. You had a 90 average, and you had kind of a get out of class free pass with your Enzian card,
Okay.
so that you could flash your card and say to the teacher, I'm skipping out of this class today.
No kidding.
Yeah. Now, you tried to do it. Is it okay if I take, we can't skip tests and that sort of thing, but
Hmm.
yeah, we could use it for that. If we were caught in the hallway without a pass, you just whipped out your NZN card. Okay, okay. Uh, yeah.
How large was the school at that time? Like each class, or even the whole school? Because I think
Yeah.
now there's 1,400. No,
Yeah.
2,500. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Way more now.
Hmm.
I can't answer that exactly. I do know that our graduating class was somewhere around 235, 240.
And
And I don't
and
know what they were after us.
and again, probably everybody knew each other and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Families. Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Um,
other big thing that happened while I was there was the marching band.
it was
That was a
huge.
huge part of the school. Huge. And whether you were in the band or not, you supported it. And they went to Montreal. They raised money and went to Japan. They were state champions or co-champions every summer. We'd go to the state fair and compete, and we usually were competing against Bishop Kearney or Bath Haverling, and one of the three always came out on top. And whenever they came back, I was living on Hillside Drive at the time, and so was the band director, and the kids would unload at the West Avenue School, and, win, lose, draw, it didn't matter. We knew that band would be marching down Hillside Drive about midnight to just play for their band director and say thanks for all the hard work.
That's great. Did you play an instrument in the band or no?
No. About second or third grade, my music teacher said, "Music is not for you."
and you took that recommendation?
Yeah, he was pretty much right. Yeah.
Who was the marching band director?
Charlie Lucy.
Now,
okay. Gordon Bascom also
Yeah.
was part of it. I know Gordon went to Japan. I don't know if he was the full director then or just an associate, but Gordon and Charlie Lucy were big time.
Okay. Well, like I said, I got your yearbook.
That's our yearbook. Okay, let's talk about the cover.
Why did you have some? Well, I just want to read a little bit of it because I think you're selling yourself short. In the back it says Nancy Wheelahan, Leaders Club 2 and 4. So I assume that's your sophomore and senior year.
One, yep.
Pep Club 2, 3 with president, right?
Yep.
Enzians Club 2, 3, and 4. So you were right there with the
for a long time.
So you did. National Honor Society 2, 3, 4. Yearbook editor 4. It's biggie. And you can tell us about the cover in just a moment. And then the last one, Senior Ball Court 4. So you take it away on what you remember about your yearbook cover and what you remember about running the yearbook.
The yearbook cover was interesting. We had a couple of artists, kids in our class who are artists, submit designs, and then this is the one we chose. Now, if you notice throughout the yearbook, the theme had to do with falling leaves, a tree. Mm-hmm. So we started out green, and then by the time, we're seniors, we're more mature, and the leaves have filled out. So a lot of people said, "Oh, it's a tree." Well, the guy, Peter Detman, who designed it, it was a mushroom cloud.
Are you serious?
I am, because we also grew up under the guise of a mushroom cloud, because we had duck and cover drills all through elementary school. And then we had the Vietnam War. And so he was subtly saying, this is what we've grown up under. Other people said, oh, it's a nice tree. Regardless, it won awards.
That's amazing, because I flipped through it kind of quickly, and I didn't even recognize that it was the leaves changing as you matured throughout your years. And the mushroom idea, that completely blows my mind right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In a great way.
We were.
In a very good way. When you graduated, did they have it at the school, or did you go to a separate location?
We had it in the gym of, which is now Quest, the West Avenue School. We graduated right there. Yeah, we didn't go anywhere.
And you were senior ball court. Was that also held?
That was held off-site. It used to be on the corner of Dewey and Latta. I think it was called Alfredo's Party House or something. And yes, I was princess on the court. So that was a surprise. Mm-hmm. Editing the yearbook was a full-time job. Mm-hmm. It really, it consumed me. And fortunately, we had a good staff. So people were all doing their jobs, but to get the pictures taken and coordinated and meet the deadlines, it was a learning. It was good learning. And if you'll notice, when you went through Dave Crumb's yearbook pile, we're the only one that doesn't fit because we're 12 by 12, or yes, we're square. We're square.
Yeah, and everything else is a rectangle, right?
Yep,
So,
yep. So
yeah.
right there, we were a little different.
Well, moving along in your life, graduated in 1970,
Yep.
and then you went on to MCC. So, talk a little bit about your early education after high school and your jobs that you ended up going to.
Okay. So I was I was burned out at the end of high school. Totally burned out. And I could not even fathom another 4 years. So I went to 2 years and actually became a medical secretary after those 2 years and worked at the U of R in the cardiology department for 6 years. Great experience, great people. Had a really good time. In 78, I left because I was about to have my first child. I had married in 72 Howard Tripp, who was also an alum. And Allison, my oldest, was born in March of 78. And my second daughter, Courtney, was born in September of 79. So they're basically twins as far as sleep goes. Yeah, it was a little crazy. And it wasn't until they were both in nursery school that I was looking through the paper one day because I wanted to buy a bike. And I saw an ad for OBGYN office. They were looking for part-time medical secretary. I applied. I got the job. I was there about 3 years. Now the kids are in school. And it's about this time that I decide I want my bachelor's degree. Also, while I was between the time Allison was born and working at the OB office, I was a childbirth educator. I worked for the Childbirth Education Association of Rochester. I trained as a educator. We taught classes of pregnant couples.
Mm-hmm.
I was president of that for 1 year. And then when I went to work for the OBGYN, I did some private teaching with their patients. And then decided I needed a bachelor's degree. And that's another whole story, Mike.
I'm all ears.
Okay.
That's what podcasts are meant for.
All right. So at the time, I'm working part-time. The kids are, young in school. And we are also, another important aspect of growing up in Hilton was I was a member of the Hilton Baptist Church. And at the time, a lot of my classmates were part of the church. And we had a really, really, really active youth group while I was growing up. Very positive experience. We had a lot of fun together. And so now I've got children of my own. So what do? You go back to church.
Mm-hmm.
So we got back to church. I got involved. And there's something about me that I can't just put a toe in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Both feet right in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asked to lead their youth group. And I did it. My husband and I did it together. It was a wonderful group of kids. Reminded me a lot of our class. And it was like the more I learned, the more I wanted to know. And we had done a sunrise service. And Hilton Baptist always used to do sunrise services at Hamlin Beach at 6 a.m. And our youth group had been asked to lead that service. So, and these kids were really sharp. So they put the service together, they're leading it. And one of the things they do is when you come to an offering, which you don't barely take up in a youth service, they had gotten creative and they got a couple of pieces of wood and they formed it into a cross and they stuck it on the shoreline. And they said to everybody who came, and back then, we'd get 50, 60 people at 6 o'clock on an Easter morning. They said, we don't want money. We want you to go up and just offer what you can. So everybody's gone up now. I haven't gone up. My kids are looking at me like, come
Mm-hmm.
on, we want to move along. What's the next thing? You got to go. Everybody else is gone. So I finally went up and I just stood there and said, I have no idea what I can offer, but whatever it is, you got it. Okay. Went on with the rest of the service. It's over. The benediction's given. We're starting to get ready to move back. 3 different people within a 5-minute time frame came up to me and said, and when are you going to accept your call to ministry?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, this isn't fair. I had just offered
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately I said, well, wait a minute. I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So this is out of the question. So a few weeks go by and it keeps coming at me and coming at me and coming at me. And I'm in church one Sunday, and this sounds really woo-woo. I don't tell this to everybody. But there were banners hanging up on the wall, and one of them was of the 3 crosses on the hill. And I'm sitting there, and I thought I was listening to the sermon, but all of a sudden that center cross just got really bright. I was looking at it, it got really, really bright. And it was as if somebody was sitting next to me. I heard so clearly, Mike, well, I'm waiting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So I quickly did some reassessing of my life and where I was. And the first thing was I needed to finish a bachelor's degree if I was going to go to seminary. Found out about Empire State College, which is part of the SUNY system, but it's an adult college. You study one-on-one with mentors. You don't go to classes. You can write papers on life experience, and if they think it's worth college credit, they'll give it to you. So in 1984, I started at Empire, and I had my bachelor's in the summer of 86. So I did some pretty fast work, but they did take a lot of my life experience, which was really great. And then I went to Colgate Rochester Crozier Divinity School because I lived here.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Greece at the time, and it was the closest one, the only one. I got accepted. It's a 3-year master's. It's one of the biggest masters you can get. 96 credits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I took 3.5 years to get mine just because I had little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to pace myself a little bit. And it still was a lot of work. And like when you go into teaching, you have to do student teaching. Well, if you're going into the ministry, you do your student pastoring.
Right.
So I did that at Union Congregational Church out in Churchville. And when I finished my called Field Ed, they hired me to be assistant pastor for the rest of that year. So I got a lot of experience there. Graduated in May of 90. And in July of 90, I went to Leroy. Now, in our tradition, in the American Baptist tradition, which is not the same as the Southern Baptist, everybody gets that mixed up. But American Baptist split back during the Civil War. We were the Northern Baptist. We split over slavery. And then as we moved west, they changed the name to be more inclusive and called it American Baptist. So we are a very small part of the Baptist tree. We're the liberal end of the Baptist tree because they ordain women, for starters.
Right.
Which is big. So the local church does the ordaining. So Hilton Baptist ordained me in May of 90. And then I was called to the First Baptist Church of Leroy. And I went there in July of 90. So that's how I got there.
Well, just to reverse a little bit before we move on, I don't even know if you remember, but I attended some of your youth groups with Howard when I was dating a girl at the time. And you guys were wonderful. Like, my parents were overjoyed that I would go with you. We did Christmas caroling once. I remember Howard reading books. So it was one of my highlights when I was in high school, and it kept me grounded. So
Oh, that's cool. I
yeah,
did
it was very
not
cool.
know that.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
pretty sure when I joined the PHHS a couple years ago. I remembered who you were, and when you said the prayer at the one banquet, I'm like, that's so and so. But the names were jiving. But
okay. Yeah.
so
Oh, that was a great group. We had so much fun with you
mhm,
guys.
mhm. and
Yeah.
and before we move on to the Leroy, and you said like I'm a mom, I'm a female. What was it like? What were the challenges presented? Not just as the role of a mom, but also, I guess you said it's kind of a liberal point of view where females were now allowed to preach
Well,
from the pulpit.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because Rochester's a very strong base for women pastors.
Okay.
So I grew up knowing them in other churches in the Monroe County area. Hilton Baptist was like so supportive of women. I mean, we had women deacons before it was a thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very progressive church that I was in. So I was kind of using that as my excuse not to have to go any further.
Right.
Um, it really wasn't until I got to seminary and I started to come up against some of the men in other denominations would have their say about it. I didn't have any trouble when I went to Churchville. They were great. They were absolutely wonderful. Had a little more pushback in Leroy.
Yeah. Let's move on. How was that?
Okay. Well, actually, first of all, for my first church, it was good. Um, it's a small church, a very small church. I mean, I was coming out of a church that had, 100, 200 people every Sunday. And now I'm in a church that if we pushed 75, we had a good turnout. I was the first woman that church had called in 175 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I became, by the time I left, the longest tenured pastor that they had had in 175 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we have a call process where you're interviewed a gazillion times. And then when they finally decide they want you as their candidate, you then have to go for a weekend where another bunch of meetings and interviews with the average parishioner.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to preach a sermon and then they vote on it. So I didn't get a lot of pushback. There was a couple of people that you could tell they weren't comfortable with having a woman. But they called me. And the first few weeks I was there, probably the first 6 months I was there, every once in a while somebody would be there in worship that wasn't a member and wasn't actually a visitor, because my people would say, oh, well, she goes to the Methodist church or he goes to the Presbyterian church. And we figured out that, well, one of them told me, well, I just wanted to come and see what a woman pastor was like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have horns or what, what's different about you? But anyways, overall, I would say generally the church and the community were very accepting. The pushback I got, which surprised me, was from women.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. There were some women, I'd say at the time in their 60s. And I think it was, how come she gets to do this? It wasn't available to us, sort of thing. But, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I did get to the point when a couple people would push me. I said, look, I am not going to debate whether or not I should be in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to debate it.
Mm-hmm.
I will discuss my call. I will discuss my theology with you, but I am not going to debate my right to be here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And things went pretty well from there.
You also, in your background, you said you were an interim minister. Is that a certification in spiritual direction. Is this all inclusive of what you were doing at Leroy? Oh,
Oh
this is
no.
on. Okay.
Yeah,
Tell us a
yeah,
little bit about that.
yeah. So when I was at Leroy, let me just give you a couple of things because I realized as I was thinking about this podcast, there is a real theme here. Um, Leroy had a very tight knit clergy community, which is pretty much unheard of. I mean, we supported each other through everything. We didn't see each other as competitors at all. We
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of work together for the community. If something was wrong in somebody's life, we were there to fill in, take over, whatever. Um, and as a result, did a lot of community ministry. So the Presbyterian pastor and I, we started a support group back for Desert Storm because we had a lot of men and boys that went from Leroy. So we had, a support group for parents and girlfriends and wives. Um, we started the Leroy Christian Community Project, which was an after-school program, a teen drop-in center, and a support group for caregivers of the elderly.
Okay.
That was a multi-church event, but I spearheaded it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of came out of a Bible study. I led a community Bible study. It kind of came out of that, and we went from there. That lasted for over 20 years. It broke off. It was its own 501c3. It had $100,000 budget.
Wow.
So that really, that took off. And a lot of that had to do with working with the school, finding out all these latchkey kids were, and all these teens on Friday nights had no place to go. So I was really into the community. And as I got close to the 12th, 13th year, things were getting a little rough. I think the church would rather I wasn't quite as involved in the community.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted more of my time and focus. I thought they were getting it, but they didn't.
Okay.
So the more I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe I've run the course here.
Mm-hmm.
And like high school, the thought of going into another parish and starting all over again just seemed a little overwhelming. And at the time, I was working with my own life coach. So we started working on what would I do if I left? And I told him, I love to research, I love to learn, and I love to present. And he said, you got a retreat and workshop ministry then.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I started when I left. And in starting that, I also realized the benefits of coaching that I got, and I could see how I could apply it in my workshops and retreats. And then I saw Boston College was offering a 3-summer program on spiritual direction. I'm going, oh man, that would really help me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got certified as a life coach and certified from Boston College as a spiritual director. And that's when, I don't know, my husband was doing a lot of interims at the time. And he said, you really got a package there that would serve as a good foundation for interim ministry. So I got certified as an interim minister. And that interim goes into a church between pastors. It's the transition time. So their pastor has left. The new pastor hasn't come. There's usually a year to 18 months before the new pastor shows up. So the interim goes in, helps people figure out what they want, what the problems are, where they need to grow, and get them ready for their new pastor. And I think I've done about 5 or 6 of those. So I was able to use coaching and spiritual direction and workshop leadership. It all nicely came together. And I did that until I finally, I was doing workshops a couple weekends ago. So I want to say I'm retired, but maybe not.
So is that the real life program that you started? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Research, learning, and presentation, RLP, real life programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you decided to move back to Rochester. Was it in 2013?
Yes, we.
Or you?
Okay, so let me back up another couple thousand years here.
Hmm.
When I was in Leroy, I think the second year I was there, Howard and I separated, which I figured was the end of my career there. But it wasn't. They supported me. They supported the girls and I. And in 1994, I married the Presbyterian pastor of Leroy,
Hmm.
Chuck Leport, which was a whole community-wide celebration. We put our invitation in the penny saver. They just came. Um, in 2012, I went to Georgia for a year to help my daughter get her 4-year-old to and from pre-K. And when I came back from Georgia, I said to Chuck, we need a new place. He was getting older. I knew I'd be traveling a lot. I said, I don't want to take care of a house anymore. So we moved to a condo in Rochester. We were there for about 6 years, and it was perfect until it was hard to climb stairs to the second floor.
Hmm.
And we just lucked into a house here in Hilton in 2019. We were back. I was back. It was new to him.
Now, do you get back? Got to rewind a little bit. Your daughters are Allison and Courtney.
Yes.
Where are they nowadays?
Okay. Well, obviously, they grew up in Leroy. They went to school, high school, graduated from Leroy. Allison is now in basically the D.C. area.
Hmm.
She's in Virginia. She works for a company called DPR, which is a big construction firm, and she's the head of talent acquisition, which she's the chief recruiter
Okay.
for the company, and spokesperson now. Courtney moved to Georgia with her husband, and they have 2 children, a girl and a boy. And just in the last couple of years, she moved to Florida. So she's down in Florida now. So they're gone.
Okay. Well, I wonder. You said the one daughter is a spokesperson for GPR. I wonder where she got
DPR.
that. I wonder where she got that talent.
I don't know.
Apple and tree. And then you also mentioned when you moved back to Hilton. Um, how did you find the community when you had moved back? Like, what had changed? What had stayed the same?
Well, it was different. It was big,
Mm-hmm.
much bigger than when I was here. I mean, we were no longer cow country out here.
Right.
That was obvious. The school system alone was so much bigger. That high school is huge. As you said, there's like 1,400 students.
Mm-hmm. I think I might have underestimated. I think it's probably
I think you might have
2,000.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, yeah. I mean, so that was big. Some of the houses I lived in don't look much different. That was nice. Let's see, what else was going on here? Well, obviously, the people that were the adults when I was growing up, some of them have already passed. Some of them are very elderly now. So that was, they're supposed to stay the same.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But it also, at the same time, it was fun to see everybody again. And a lot of people, when I lived here, everybody knew me.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back, very few people knew me.
Well, I think then your desire to get back involved in the Hilton community, I think you first started off with was it the Parma Hilton Historical Society, or was it the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go into that a little bit and how you edged your way into that. Not edged. I guess it sounds kind of like intrusive, but how'd you get yourself back involved?
Yeah, both feet again.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something when I got back to the community. I mean, I'm officially retired, and I thought, I'm not just gonna, I can't just sit and read all day or sit on my back porch. So I was thinking about things I wanted to do, and I love history. I absolutely, I would have loved to have been a history professor. That would have been another calling I would have enjoyed. And I knew Dave Crum. Dave Crum actually was my daughter Courtney's professor at RIT in the hospitality management program. So we knew Dave. Of course, I knew Dave from before, and just got talking to him, and was looking at what they offered. My cousin Todd had told me they offer really good programs, and so I joined the membership. And then, I don't know, probably a year or so after I had joined, they they put out a thing in their newsletter. They were looking for a secretary, and I thought, I can do that. Silly me. So I volunteered to be secretary, which turned out to be a much bigger job than I had anticipated it to be. And I love the history. I love learning about Hilton. So much of the stuff I can remember, some of it, and it's just, I don't know, it just makes me feel connected.
Well, I've been in meetings with you, and you do have an innate ability to gather what's being said and also to keep the meeting focused and progressing forward. So I think it's another one of your hidden, well, not so hidden if you've been in a meeting with you. And then you also made mention that you're going to have your 50th class reunion, and then due to the COVID pandemic, things turned it topsy-turvy.
They sure did. So 2020 would have been our 50th. That's COVID central. So we put it off for a year. We had it in 2021. But we were well on the way to having it organized for 2020. And when everything shut down, because we had started a year earlier. And so we're sitting in a committee meeting one night and saying, we got to cancel. We've got no choice. Everything shut down. We got to cancel. And one of our committee members, a guy by the name of Alan Taylor, who graduated from Hilton and then became a very successful chemical engineer living in Michigan now, said, you know what? When I went to Virginia Tech, I was probably the most prepared student there. Hilton had given me an incredible foundation. And I just think if we can't have our reunion, we still need to do something. We need to give back to the school. And he suggested, let's take up, ask people, you're not going, so for the price of a ticket, would you chip in? We'd like to give back to the school. We'd like to set up a grants program for the classrooms. So it would benefit, a lot of students rather than a scholarship. So our president sent out an email to our mailing list, and within 2 weeks, we had $20,000.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. We were blown away. Then we had a problem because the class of 70 is not a legal entity. And here we're sitting with $20,000.
Right.
So we tried a couple of channels that kind of fell apart, and then Casey came to our rescue and helped us set things up and said, all right, you need to become a 501c3. Well, we didn't want that to just be the class of 70 because we weren't going to sustain that. So we talked about Hilton doesn't have an alumni association. Let's bring all the classes together and see what we can do. And so the Alumni Association was born out of sitting there with $20,000 that we didn't know what to do with. And so we're a 501c3. We're a registered charity, tax exempt. We had all the paperwork, all the bells and whistles.
And what are some things that you've already sent charitable contributions to, or scholarships, or whatnot?
Well, the Alumni Association is, it was a year old in May of 2023. So we're really just over our first year. In our first year, we gave $11,000 back to the school in grants. Most of all that was grants. We funded the Sources of Strength training. We put some money into the 8th grade trip to DC because they had lost a year for fundraising with the COVID. And we sponsored the new mural in the high school. It's in the foyer of the high school, which is going to be dedicated on Thursday. So those were the big grants we gave out. We gave out some smaller ones. And then in June, we gave a $1,000 scholarship to a senior who would be entering a trade or a technical school. We were really, we wanted to be intentional about that because we know that there's so many kids that have the high averages and are going on, and they get a lot of scholarships. They get a lot of awards. Mm-hmm. And as we talked to Kristen Paulini, who's the assistant for superintendent, what is she? Instruction.
Superintendent of instruction, yeah.
Yes. She got talking about kids that are going into trade and technical, and our committee had been talking about that. So that was it. And so we started with the 20,000, which was a nice base. And we have had fundraisers. We do a fall fundraiser and a spring. Last fall, it was PGA tickets. Then in the spring, we had casino night, which was unbelievably fun and successful and so supported by the community. All our expenses were covered by the time we got to casino night. So it was pure profit.
That's awesome.
Made $7,500. Mm-hmm. This year, our fall fundraiser was Buffalo Bills tickets to the Jets game. Yesterday, we drew the winner of that, and we made $3,700 on that. Because, again, the Bills tickets were donated by Mike Lee, who's an alum. Mm-hmm. We're looking at having a trivia night coming up in, I think, November. And, of course, casino night will be on the schedule in April. So all of these fundraisers help us keep feeding the grants and the scholarships. So we're really thrilled at how this first year has gone.
Do you want to mention who's the president of the... You left that out, Nancy.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm the president, but we have a board made up of alumni from various classes, and it's a great working board. They've been very, very busy. Everybody's got a skill, and they're plugging it in. Eric Edelman from the class of 09, he's doing all our IT, all our web stuff, all our graphics. He's just been wonderful. So, it's just been a great working board. It isn't just one person. And so that I'm very grateful for that. And we're always open for other people to come on the board that might want to take over this position because I am retired and I am old.
You want to pass it on to the next generation, literally.
We do. We wanted to get, our goal is to see it be sustainable.
Okay. Well, so much in life, there are certain things that happen that send us in one direction. And you already talked about the one where you were in church and the one banner and things like that. There could be trauma and things like that. And I think you know where I'm getting at. Just briefly, touch upon the tragedy of that befell your father.
Yeah. Well, when I was 12, my father was a volunteer fireman, Bernie Wheelahan, and he was on a way to a fire one day, riding the back of a truck. It hit a bump. He lost his hold on the truck and fell, and it resulted in his death. And at 12, that's a pretty big life event. And of course, my brother was only 7, so it was even more so for him. And we lived on Hillside Drive at the time. And the neighbors on Hillside Drive were amazing. In fact, I ran into Al Howe the other day, and he was on Hillside. They were on Hillside at the time. And he came, we were talking, and he said, boy, we were talking the other day about that gang that was up there and how all you kids were so close and played together and how much fun. And he's right. It was really great. And the adults took good care of my mom and us. Unfortunately, I think it was 6 to 8 months later, my mother was in a car accident, hit by a drunk driver and broke her leg. And she never really walked again well on her own. So at 12, I took on a lot of responsibilities that were really way above my pay level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I learned a lot. I gave up a lot. I learned a lot. It is what it is. I think that experience, along with some of the others I've had in my life, have helped me in my ministry. There's no doubt about that. I am particularly tuned to grieving people and making sure I do the best memorial service or funeral that these people could want, because it's so important.
Absolutely. In your experiences, whether it's ministry, life coaching, and everything like that, um, I'm 54. I'm a little bit younger than you are. Uh, there's always concern of spirituality in our society, that it's been steadily going down since, I don't know, 70s or 80s. Do you have any? I don't want to focus on the problem, but what are some possible ways that our society or community can get back to that sense of family and spirituality?
Oh, Mike, that's just such an easy question.
Go to,
No, it's not. It's one that church leaders have struggled with since the 70s. Um, here's my take. I have to say this carefully.
I knew if I
Go ahead.
I knew if I asked you, anything you'd say would be diplomatic and appropriate. So,
all right, fingers crossed. There's a difference between spirituality and religion, or spirituality and church. What I think has happened is people really are yearning for a spiritual connection. And yet, what they find in organized religion or an established church is either rules about who fits or who doesn't, or can we sign you up for this committee? And I don't think that's what people want. I understand it, believe me. I understand it completely. It was a struggle, always a struggle for me. But I just think there's, especially now, there's so much uncertainty, and there's so much division and so much anger, and people don't know what to do with it. I don't even know if they know where it's coming from. And I think they would benefit from, it doesn't have to be a spiritual director. The pastor can do this through sermons, but they need to find a way to connect to something that's greater than they are. To have a vision bigger than themselves. So many churches are struggling financially, and I want to say to them, that's not a faith struggle. You can handle the finances. But to what end? What's your vision? What's your mission? Where do you want to go with this? How are you reaching out to the people in your community? And I do see, like there's grief support group, and there's clothing now, and food, and all of that. It's almost, this is what I said to my husband. I said, it's like we need to have a church service and then a chapel service. In church, you can get them fired up for what they're going to do next. Let them do their praising and their singing and all that. And then we just need a quiet space and someone to lead them in connecting their spirit with the Spirit, getting some of these tough questions answered. Sometimes the church gives an answer too quick. People who are divorced, people who have lost children or spouses or any number of things, they need somebody to listen and help them know they're not alone. And the thing I found so much in my office from people, they blame God. Why did God do this to me? people live in the Old Testament where, if you don't do it right, you're going to get squashed.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the overarching theme of both the Old Testament and the New Testament is love. And it's not just romantic love. It's a verb. It's action. It's faith in action to me. And I just think we don't give people the opportunity to stretch and reach a higher level of thinking, of call it what you want, faith, thinking, theology. Go back to that youth group you were talking about. I remember at Christmas time, the youth group would collect money from the people in the church, and then we would go grocery shopping. And the kids would go grocery shopping, and they would come back and they would wrap these boxes, and they'd be very particular about, they knew what the family was, and they were very careful. Well, if a kid is in this family, they have to have this, and then they'd go deliver them. And when they came back, they were changed.
Mm-hmm.
They were changed because they said to me, "We've had our Christmas. That's what Christmas is about." Mm-hmm. I've taken kids on mission trips. They come back changed because they see what's out there and how they can help and how little other people have. And it gives them a much bigger perspective. And I just think, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I worry that the church's perspective is too narrow. It's too in the four walls. And I think in order to get out, you've got to have a bigger perspective, and I think that's where spirituality comes in. What is the meaning? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my call? Whether we can get people back to that, I don't know, because people are busy. That's the other thing. I've often said, forget Sunday morning. You have church when you can have church. Mm-hmm. Bring them together when you can get them together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be on a Sunday. But then there's that, well, we've always done it that way.
Well, I knew that was a deep question, and you responded in an extremely deep manner, and I really hope people listen to that answer and internalize it. And
thank you.
Discussing your life perspective, and all your experiences has really been a pleasure for me. And I can't wait for people to watch this podcast, Nancy, because you are a true Hiltonian through and through, and you're a treasure. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me. And you asked me about 3 words to describe Hilton.
Oh my goodness, how did I forget? It's right on my notes. Please do.
Okay. So obviously for me, family is important. That's Hilton. Growth. Hilton is really growing, and compared to some of the other communities I've been in, really open to bringing outsiders in and making them, and my 3rd word is community, making them part of the community. There's so much to develop community here, and I just want more people to take part.
Well, I think if they listen to your words, they certainly will. And thank you again for bringing up that 3 words to describe Hilton. And again, thank you for joining me. And please keep doing your wonderful things with the community and the Alumni Association. And I just might catch up with you at that trivia contest. So.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
All right.
Yes, thanks. I really appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Take care, and God bless.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.